Let me ask you something real quick. Have you ever been so hurt by someone that just the thought of forgiving them feels impossible? Like you're holding on to this heavy weight, and it feels like letting it go means they win? I get it. But here's the thing, forgiveness isn't about letting them win, it's about you winning. Today, I'm going to share the secret to forgiving and moving on so you can reclaim your peace and step into the happiest, most unbothered version of yourself. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll see forgiveness in a whole new light. So grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's dive in. Hey there, Daily Positivity family. Welcome back to the channel that's all about unlocking your best life, one mindset shift at a time. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss a dose of positivity. The secret to forgiving and moving on. Forgiveness. It's a word that holds immense power but often feels elusive when we need it most. Whether you've been hurt by a friend, betrayed by a loved one, or wronged by a stranger, the journey to forgiveness can feel like climbing a steep, never-ending mountain. But the truth is, forgiveness isn't about forgetting or condoning the wrong. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional chains that keep you tied to pain. This is the secret to forgiving and moving on, understanding that forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. Understanding forgiveness requires delving into its emotional and psychological dimensions. At its heart, forgiveness is a conscious decision to release resentment, anger, or bitterness towards someone who has wronged you. This act of letting go is not about minimizing the harm done or absolving the other person of responsibility. It's about reclaiming your peace and power. By forgiving, you choose to sever the emotional ties that keep you tethered to the pain of the past. This process, while deeply personal, often unfolds in a series of steps that require self-awareness, empathy, and emotional resilience. One of the key aspects of understanding forgiveness is recognizing its transformative nature. Forgiveness allows you to shift your focus from the harm done to your own well-being and growth. When you hold on to resentment, it's like carrying a heavy burden that weighs down your mind and heart. The act of forgiving lifts this burden, freeing you to move forward without the emotional baggage. It's important to understand that forgiveness doesn't mean you're weak or passive. On the contrary, it's a courageous choice to prioritize your mental and emotional health over the pain inflicted by others. Forgiveness is also a journey of self-discovery. It requires you to confront your emotions, acknowledge the hurt, and decide how you want to respond. This process can be uncomfortable, especially if the wounds are deep or the wrongdoer has not shown remorse. However, by facing these emotions head-on, you gain clarity and a deeper understanding of yourself. Forgiveness is not about forgetting what happened, it's about changing your relationship with the memory. Instead of allowing it to control you, you take control of how you react and move forward. Empathy plays a crucial role in the process of forgiveness. Trying to understand the other person's perspective can help you see their actions in a new light. This doesn't mean you have to excuse their behavior or agree with their choices. Rather, it's about acknowledging their humanity and recognizing that everyone has their own struggles and imperfections. Empathy doesn't negate your pain, but it can soften the intensity of your anger and resentment, making it easier to let go. Another important aspect of forgiveness is setting boundaries. Forgiving someone doesn't mean you have to reconcile with them or allow them back into your life. Forgiveness is about finding inner peace, not necessarily repairing relationships. In some cases, maintaining distance from the person who hurt you is essential for your well-being. Setting clear boundaries allows you to protect yourself while still releasing the negative emotions associated with the past. Self-forgiveness is an often overlooked but vital component of the forgiveness journey. Many people struggle to forgive themselves for mistakes, failures, or perceived shortcomings. This self-directed anger and guilt can be just as damaging as holding a grudge against someone else. Understanding forgiveness means recognizing that you, too, deserve compassion and grace. By forgiving yourself, you acknowledge your humanity and create space for growth and healing. It's about learning from your experiences and committing to doing better in the future, rather than punishing yourself for the past. The psychological and physical benefits of forgiveness are well documented. Letting go of resentment can reduce stress, lower blood pressure, and improve overall mental health. It can also enhance your relationships, as you're no longer carrying the weight of unresolved emotions that can spill over into other areas of your life. Forgiveness fosters a sense of freedom and empowerment, allowing you to focus on the present and future rather than being trapped by the past. Understanding forgiveness also involves dispelling common misconceptions. Many people believe that forgiving someone means condoning their actions or inviting them back into their lives. Others think that forgiveness should happen quickly or that it's a one-time event. In reality, forgiveness is a deeply personal process that varies from person to person. It often takes time and repeated effort, especially for significant hurts. It's not about excusing the wrongdoing but about choosing to prioritize your peace over your pain. Forgiveness is not a sign of weakness but of strength. It takes courage to confront your emotions, empathize with others, and release the hold that pain and resentment have on you. It's a powerful act of self-care and self-liberation that allows you to live more fully and authentically. By understanding forgiveness, you unlock the key to emotional freedom and pave the way for a brighter, more peaceful future. In conclusion, understanding forgiveness means recognizing it as a transformative and empowering process. It's about letting go of resentment, embracing empathy, and prioritizing your well-being. Forgiveness is not about the other person, it's about you and your journey toward healing and growth. By choosing to forgive, you take control of your narrative and create a life defined by peace, resilience, and inner strength. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, a gift that opens the door to a future unburdened by the weight of the past. Why forgiveness is essential. Why forgiveness is essential lies at the very core of human well-being and emotional freedom. It is a cornerstone of living a peaceful and fulfilling life, not just because it releases us from the grasp of anger and resentment, but because it actively promotes healing, growth, and connection. Holding on to grudges and harboring bitterness might seem like a form of justice or protection, but in reality, it is more akin to drinking poison and expecting someone else to suffer. When we refuse to forgive, we lock ourselves in a prison of our own making, allowing the actions of others to dominate our emotional and mental landscapes. Forgiveness, then, is not about the person who hurt us. It is about reclaiming our own power and agency. One of the most compelling reasons forgiveness is essential is its impact on mental and physical health. Numerous studies have shown that harboring resentment and anger can lead to chronic stress, which negatively affects the immune system, cardiovascular health, and even brain function. Stress hormones like cortisol flood the body when we dwell on past hurts, keeping us in a state of fight or flight that is neither sustainable nor healthy. Forgiveness, on the other hand, has been shown to reduce these stress levels significantly, promoting relaxation and allowing the body to heal. Letting go of grudges can lower blood pressure, improve sleep quality, and even boost overall life satisfaction. The connection between forgiveness and health is undeniable. By forgiving, we do not just heal our hearts, but also our bodies. Forgiveness is also essential for emotional resilience and personal growth. Life is full of challenges and conflicts, and the ability to forgive equips us with the tools to navigate these difficulties with grace and strength. When we forgive, we demonstrate to ourselves that we are capable of overcoming adversity without being defined by it. This resilience is critical for building self-esteem and fostering a sense of control over our lives. Rather than being perpetual victims of circumstance, forgiveness empowers us to take ownership of our narratives, transforming pain into a source of strength and wisdom. It allows us to learn from our experiences without being weighed down by them, opening the door to personal evolution and a deeper understanding of ourselves and others. Relationships, too, thrive on forgiveness. Human connections are inherently imperfect, and conflicts are inevitable in any meaningful relationship. The ability to forgive is what allows these relationships to endure and deepen over time. Without forgiveness, even minor slights can fester and grow, eroding trust and intimacy. Forgiveness fosters empathy and compassion, enabling us to see the humanity in others and recognize that we all make mistakes. This does not mean ignoring boundaries or tolerating harmful behavior. Rather, it means choosing to focus on the potential for healing and growth within the relationship. Forgiveness paves the way for reconciliation and mutual understanding, strengthening the bonds that bring richness and meaning to our lives. Beyond personal relationships, forgiveness has a profound impact on communities and societies. At a collective level, forgiveness can break cycles of hatred and revenge that perpetuate conflict and division. History is filled with examples of individuals and movements that chose forgiveness over retaliation, leading to profound social change and healing. Whether it is through truth and reconciliation commissions, restorative justice practices, or grassroots efforts to promote dialogue and understanding, forgiveness has the power to transform not just individual lives but entire communities. It reminds us of our shared humanity and our capacity for compassion, even in the face of great injustice. Forgiveness is not without its challenges. It requires us to confront our pain, vulnerability, and often a sense of injustice. However, it is precisely in facing these challenges that we find liberation. Forgiveness is not about condoning the actions of those who hurt us or forgetting the lessons we have learned. It is about releasing the hold that anger and resentment have on our lives, allowing us to move forward with clarity and purpose. It is a radical act of self-love and courage, one that prioritizes our well-being over our desire for retribution. In essence, forgiveness is essential because it is a pathway to freedom. It liberates us from the shackles of the past, allowing us to live fully in the present and embrace the future with hope and optimism. It is a gift we give to ourselves, one that enriches our lives and the lives of those around us. By choosing forgiveness, we choose peace over pain, healing over hurt, and love over anger. It is a choice that has the power to transform not just our own lives but the world around us, creating a ripple effect of compassion, understanding, and humanity. The barriers to forgiveness. Why is forgiveness so hard? Forgiveness is often spoken of as a virtue, a cornerstone of emotional and spiritual well-being, and a pathway to healing. Yet, despite its recognized importance, forgiveness remains one of the most difficult acts to practice, and the barriers to it are numerous and deeply rooted in human nature, emotions, and social dynamics. Understanding these barriers requires an exploration of the complex interplay between personal pain, psychological defense mechanisms, and cultural or societal influences that make forgiveness seem almost unattainable in certain circumstances. One of the most significant barriers to forgiveness is the depth of the pain caused by the wrongdoing. When someone has been profoundly hurt, whether through betrayal, violence, or other forms of harm, the emotional wound can feel overwhelming. Pain often demands acknowledgement, and the thought of forgiving the perpetrator can seem like an invalidation of one's suffering. People may feel that forgiving too easily or too quickly diminishes the gravity of the offense, erasing the significance of their own experience. In this way, the fear of minimizing pain becomes a major obstacle, as individuals wrestle with the idea that forgiveness might weaken their sense of justice or self-worth. Another barrier arises from the complex relationship between forgiveness and justice. Many people struggle to forgive because they equate it with letting someone off the hook. The desire for fairness and accountability is deeply ingrained, and forgiveness can seem incompatible with the need to see wrongdoers face consequences for their actions. This is particularly true in cases where the perpetrator has not acknowledged their wrongdoing or shown remorse. Without an apology or signs of accountability, forgiving can feel like surrendering to injustice or betraying one's moral principles. This tension between justice and forgiveness often traps individuals in a cycle of resentment, where holding on to anger feels like the only way to maintain their dignity or seek validation for their pain. Pride and ego also play a significant role in preventing forgiveness. Human beings are naturally inclined to protect their sense of self, and forgiving someone who has hurt them can feel like an admission of weakness or vulnerability. To forgive often requires humility and a willingness to let go of the need to be right. For many, this is a daunting prospect, as it involves dismantling the defensive walls built to shield oneself from further harm. Pride may whisper that forgiveness is an act of submission or that the offender does not deserve such generosity. In doing so, it reinforces the barrier, making reconciliation seem like a threat rather than a possibility. Another deeply ingrained barrier is the fear of being hurt again. Forgiveness is often misunderstood as a requirement to reconcile or restore trust with the offender, and this fear keeps people from forgiving, especially in relationships where harm has been recurring. The idea of forgiving someone who might repeat their actions can feel dangerous, as if forgiveness opens the door to more pain. In such cases, individuals may cling to resentment as a protective mechanism, a way of safeguarding themselves from vulnerability. This self-preservation instinct is understandable but ultimately contributes to a cycle of emotional stagnation, where the inability to forgive creates ongoing tension and stress. Cultural and societal influences further complicate the path to forgiveness. In some cultures, forgiveness is seen as a sign of moral strength, while in others, it is perceived as a sign of weakness or passivity. These differing perspectives can shape an individual's willingness to forgive, as they grapple with societal expectations and judgments. Moreover, in a world that often glorifies retribution and vengeance, whether in media, politics, or interpersonal conflicts, the concept of forgiveness can feel out of place or even counterproductive. Social norms may pressure individuals to hold grudges or seek revenge, reinforcing the notion that forgiveness is a betrayal of one's community or identity. The psychological weight of unresolved trauma also stands as a major barrier to forgiveness. When people carry unhealed wounds, their ability to forgive is often hindered by the lingering impact of those experiences. Trauma can distort one's perception of self and others, creating a narrative of victimhood that makes forgiveness seem impossible. For some, the pain becomes a defining part of their identity, and the thought of forgiving the offender feels like losing a part of themselves. Additionally, the neurological and emotional imprints of trauma can make it difficult to move beyond the initial hurt, trapping individuals in a state of emotional reactivity that resists forgiveness. A final barrier lies in the misunderstandings and myths surrounding forgiveness itself. Many people mistakenly believe that forgiveness requires forgetting, condoning, or reconciling with the offender. These misconceptions create unnecessary pressure and fear, as individuals worry that forgiving means erasing the past or exposing themselves to further harm. True forgiveness, however, is not about excusing the behavior or pretending the harm never happened. It is a process of releasing the emotional grip that the offense holds over one's life. Unfortunately, these nuances are often overshadowed by simplistic or idealized portrayals of forgiveness, leaving individuals confused and hesitant about how to approach it. The barriers to forgiveness are deeply human, rooted in pain, fear, pride, and societal conditioning. While the act of forgiveness can offer profound liberation, it demands courage, self-awareness, and a willingness to confront these obstacles head-on. By understanding and acknowledging these barriers, individuals can begin to navigate the complex terrain of forgiveness, taking small steps toward letting go of the burden of resentment and embracing the possibility of healing. 3 steps to forgiving and moving on. Forgiveness and moving on are often seen as intertwined, but the journey toward achieving them can feel overwhelming. The process requires intentionality, emotional labor, and self-compassion. While forgiveness is deeply personal and varies based on circumstances, there are 3 essential steps that can guide someone through the process of letting go of resentment and embracing a sense of peace. These steps are not linear, nor do they come with guarantees of immediate relief, but they create a framework for working through the complexities of forgiveness and moving forward. The first step is acknowledgement. Forgiveness begins with an honest confrontation of the pain, anger, or betrayal that has been inflicted. It requires facing the emotions that accompany the experience and resisting the temptation to suppress or deny them. Acknowledgement involves naming the harm and its impact, both externally and internally. This can be an emotionally intense process, as it forces individuals to revisit wounds they may have tried to avoid. However, suppressing emotions only prolongs their hold over the mind and heart. By bringing them to the surface, people create a foundation for healing. This step also involves accepting that the past cannot be changed and that carrying the burden of resentment indefinitely only deepens the hurt. Acknowledgement is not about excusing the behavior or immediately shifting to forgiveness. It is about validating the reality of what occurred and how it has affected one's life. The second step is reframing. This stage requires a shift in perspective, where the individual begins to examine the situation from a broader or more compassionate lens. Reframing does not mean justifying or condoning the harm but involves exploring the context in which it happened. It may include trying to understand the other person's motivations, flaws, or humanity, without diminishing the validity of one's own feelings. Reframing helps create emotional distance from the pain, allowing individuals to see the harm as something that happened to them, rather than something that defines them. This step often involves challenging narratives of victimhood and exploring the possibility of finding meaning or growth in the experience, even if it was deeply painful. Reframing can also include acknowledging one's own resilience and strength, recognizing that forgiveness is not about the other person but about reclaiming control over one's emotions and mental well-being. The third step is release. Forgiveness ultimately culminates in letting go, not of the memory, but of the power the event holds over one's emotions and identity. Releasing resentment is not about forgetting or pretending the harm never occurred. It is about deciding not to let the pain dictate one's future. This step requires a conscious decision to prioritize inner peace over anger or bitterness. For some, this may involve rituals, writing letters that are never sent, or engaging in mindfulness or therapy to process lingering emotions. Release also involves setting boundaries, ensuring that forgiveness does not mean allowing further harm. It is a way of closing the chapter while preserving the lessons learned, creating space for new experiences and relationships. This step is both liberating and empowering, as it allows individuals to move forward without carrying the emotional weight of past wrongs. These 3 steps, acknowledgement, reframing, and release, represent a pathway to forgiveness and moving on. Each step requires patience and effort, but together, they offer the opportunity to break free from the cycle of resentment and find freedom in healing. Moving on after forgiveness. Moving on after forgiveness is a deeply personal and transformative journey that requires both emotional effort and intentional action. Forgiveness, while an essential step in healing, does not automatically erase the lingering pain or the memories of the harm caused. Moving on involves learning to live without the weight of resentment, rediscovering a sense of self that is no longer tied to the hurt, and finding ways to build a fulfilling life beyond the experience. It is an ongoing process that invites growth, reflection, and renewal. The first challenge of moving on after forgiveness is navigating the residual emotions that may still surface. Forgiveness does not mean that all negative feelings vanish instantly, and it is normal for echoes of anger, sadness, or hurt to arise occasionally. The key is to approach these emotions with compassion rather than judgment. Acknowledging that healing is not a linear process allows individuals to remain patient with themselves and avoid the trap of believing they have failed if they revisit the pain. Instead of resisting or suppressing these emotions, it helps to view them as opportunities to reaffirm one's decision to let go. This gradual release of emotional attachment to the past creates the space needed for moving forward. Another important aspect of moving on is redefining one's identity outside of the experience of harm. Often, pain and betrayal can leave a lasting imprint, shaping how individuals see themselves and their relationships. Moving on requires actively reclaiming that narrative and rejecting the idea that the hurt defines who they are. It involves focusing on personal strengths, values, and aspirations that extend beyond the shadow of the past. For some, this might mean rediscovering passions, setting new goals, or pursuing opportunities that bring joy and fulfillment. It is a process of reconnecting with a sense of purpose and envisioning a future that is no longer anchored to the events that caused pain. Moving on also involves setting and maintaining healthy boundaries, particularly if the harm came from someone still present in one's life. Forgiveness does not necessitate reconciliation, nor does it mean allowing the offender to have the same level of access or influence as before. Establishing boundaries is an act of self-respect and protection, ensuring that forgiveness is not mistaken for a willingness to tolerate further harm. Boundaries empower individuals to take control of their lives and relationships, fostering an environment where trust and safety can be rebuilt, either with the same people or with new ones. Finally, moving on after forgiveness often entails embracing gratitude and focusing on the present moment. Gratitude can serve as a powerful antidote to the pull of past grievances, reminding individuals of the positive aspects of their lives and the growth that can emerge from adversity. Mindfulness practices, such as meditation or journaling, can help center attention on the present and cultivate a sense of peace. By consciously choosing to invest energy in the present rather than the past, individuals create room for new experiences, connections, and possibilities. Moving on after forgiveness is an act of liberation. It is not about forgetting the harm or pretending it didn't happen, but about freeing oneself from its hold. It is a process of learning to trust again, not just others, but also oneself, and of embracing the resilience that has carried one through difficult times. While the journey may not be easy, it is ultimately a path to a lighter, freer, and more fulfilling life. Through self-compassion, intentionality, and the courage to embrace the future, moving on becomes not just possible but profoundly transformative. The freedom of forgiveness. The process of forgiving and moving on is one of profound emotional and spiritual transformation. At its core, forgiveness is a choice, a deliberate decision to release the grip that past hurts have on your present and future. It's not about pretending the wrongs never happened, nor is it about excusing the actions of those who have caused pain. Rather, it's about freeing yourself from the hold of negativity, resentment, and anger. When you forgive, you are choosing peace over prolonged suffering, and in that choice lies the key to emotional freedom. Moving on after forgiveness doesn't mean that the pain disappears immediately. The residual emotions may take time to heal, and there may be moments of doubt or sadness. But moving on is about learning to live without the weight of bitterness and regret, not allowing those feelings to define you. It's about embracing your worth and shifting your focus to the present and future, where new opportunities, relationships, and growth await. When you choose to forgive, you are choosing to stop living in the past and to start living in the present, free from the chains of anger. Forgiveness also gives you the freedom to redefine your own identity. You are not defined by the wrongs that others have done to you. By letting go of resentment, you reclaim your autonomy, your sense of self, and your capacity for joy. In doing so, you can move forward with a renewed sense of purpose and openness to new experiences. This freedom allows you to create space in your life for healthier relationships, personal growth, and the pursuit of your own happiness. Ultimately, forgiveness is a journey, not a destination. It's a path that requires patience, self-compassion, and courage. But every step you take brings you closer to the freedom that lies on the other side. The act of forgiving is not just about releasing the past, it's about embracing the future with a heart that is open and unburdened. It's about allowing yourself to heal and to move forward into the life you truly deserve. So, take a deep breath, let go of what no longer serves you, and step into the life that awaits. Thank you for joining me on this journey of understanding forgiveness and the freedom it brings. Remember, forgiveness isn't a one-time act. It's a continuous process that allows us to release the weight of the past and embrace the future with an open heart. Take your time, be kind to yourself, and remember that every step forward is a step toward a brighter, more peaceful tomorrow. If this video resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Wishing you all the peace and freedom you deserve. Take care.